Which choice completes the text with the most logical transition? One poll taken after the first 1960 presidential debate suggested that John Kennedy lost badly. Only 21% of those who listened on the radio rated him the winner. Blank, the debate was ultimately considered a victory for the telegenic young senator, who rated higher than his opponent, Vice President Richard Nixon, among those watching on the new medium of television. So in the text, we can see that the two sentences show a contrast, where the first sentence highlights how the poll based on the radio suggested that John Kennedy lost badly, and the second sentence highlights how the debate was ultimately considered a victory for John Kennedy, among those watching on the new medium of television. So, based on this, let's look at the answer choices. A. In other words. This is incorrect because in other words would imply that the second sentence would rephrase or paraphrase what was said in the first sentence, but this is not the case because the second sentence highlights a contrast between what was said in the first sentence. So A is incorrect. B. Therefore. This is incorrect because therefore would imply that the first sentence that second sentence is the result of what was said in the first sentence, but this is not the case, because if that were true, the second sentence would highlight how John Kennedy had lost, but instead it highlights how John Kennedy had won, among those watching on the new medium of television. Therefore, B is incorrect. C. Likewise. This is incorrect, because likewise implies that there is similarity between the two sentences, but this is not the case, because the second sentence doesn't highlight how John Kennedy lost badly. Instead, it highlights how he had won. So C is incorrect. D. Nevertheless. This is the correct answer because this properly shows a contrast between the two sentences, where the first sentence highlights how John Kennedy had lost badly, based on those listening on the radio, but the second sentence highlights how he had actually won, and this was based on the new medium of television. So D is the correct answer.